After almost 60 years of strong bipartisan support, Congress has cut all federal funding for public media, stripping away a critical pillar of support for local stations like ours. At Vermont Public, we'll lose at least $2 million this year. If all our sustaining members increase their gift by $7 per month, we'll close that gap for good. Increase your gift today and help close the gap at vermontpublic.org/update.
From Vermont Public, this is The Frequency. I'm Mary Engish. It's Wednesday, September 17th. Here are today's headlines. U.S. Representative Becca Balint says she's concerned about the safety of public officials, given recent cases of political violence. She cites the recent assassinations of conservative activist Charlie Kirk and the former Speaker of the Minnesota House, Melissa Hortman, and her husband. Balint told Vermont Public she strongly supports efforts to provide members of Congress with greater security at public events. She says she shares the sentiments of many of her colleagues about the dangers they face as public officials.
Absolutely. No question. The rhetoric online is it's out of control. It's absolutely out of control. And it's a very scary time to be in public office right now.
Balint says House Speaker Mike Johnson will likely include additional security funds in an upcoming short-term budget bill. Residents in Montreal, New York, are under a local state of emergency due to drought conditions. That town's water reservoir is now at critically low levels, according to Sun Community News. All of Vermont and portions of the North Country are experiencing moderate to severe drought conditions, and there's no significant rain in the foreseeable future. Residents in Montreal are asked to refrain from non-essential water use for at least 30 days. That's according to NBC5. And there's an order limiting all water usage in town until September 21st. Water for drinking, for cooking, showering, that is allowed, but watering lawns and washing cars is not. NBC5 reports town officials are also securing bottled water for residents there, and officials also stating that violating the emergency water ban could come with penalties. They are asking residents to report people who are not adhering to it. With the new academic year underway, Connecticut's districts are working on new school library policies for books, including how materials are obtained, displayed, and reviewed if a parent or guardian brings up a challenge. Connecticut Public Radio's Michaela Savitt has more on the state law passed this year.
Under the new law, school boards statewide must pass the policies in consultation with the superintendent and the director of curriculum and school librarian. Ellen Paul with the Connecticut Library Consortium says there's parameters to these policies, but they also allow for local control.
We are not prescribing a standard policy because we know that what works in Norwich might not work in Norwalk.
She estimates that half of Connecticut's school districts have library policies, but many are outdated. And book challenges have been on the rise since the pandemic. Rhode Island passed a similar effort this year, and Vermont's law that passed last year took effect in July. For the New England News Collaborative, I'm Michaela Savitt.
New rules that advise Montreal city workers to prioritize speaking French are drawing criticism from an advocacy group for English speakers. That group is lobbying the city's next mayor to eliminate the rules. The rules instruct employees to at least initially respond in French to people seeking service in English. The Montreal Gazette revealed employees also received scripts to use when interacting with English and bilingual speakers. Workers were also told to report rule violations. The Anglophone group, it's known as TALQ, T-A-L-Q, they told the Gazette the current mayoral administration is violating the rights of English-speaking Montrealers with these rules. It says the rules create a, quote, environment of fear and uncertainty, and says they'll make it harder for employees to work and discourage citizens from using services. The Coalition Avenir Québec political party argues those rules will help protect and promote French. A 2022 Quebec law imposed stricter guidelines for the use of French in the province. Several Anglophone groups are challenging it in court. Coming up, generative AI can strike fear in the hearts of parents and educators worried their kids and students will rely on it to write school assignments. One local writing professor brings AI into his classroom to help students find their own unique voice. Michaela Lefrak spoke to him, and we'll hear their conversation. That's after this.
Thanks for listening to The Frequency, where support comes from SRH Law, believing that values and mission still matter. When you need good counsel for your values-based work, whether it's securing our energy future, building affordable and sustainable communities, or advancing a values-led economy, they're here to help you make a difference. SRHLaw.com. Making a difference is our practice.
Artificial intelligence is rapidly changing schoolwork, and many parents and educators say they are worried about it. A class of first-year students at Middlebury College is exploring how to use AI to be creative and develop their own voice. Writing and rhetoric professor Hector Vila created the class. He spoke with Vermont Edition's Michaela Lefrak about what he's heard in the classroom during the first week and a half of school.
As I told my class a week ago, my central goal, my most dominant goal in this class is to show them where they have agency. And while AI is a system that purports to give us amazing opportunities, what's really required is vigilance on the part of the user. Why am I using it? How am I using it? Where is it coming from? And also, let's not forget, too, because we forget in these conversations, what's the cost of my use? And that gets us into climate change. That gets us into energy uses, et cetera. I want them to have a digital consciousness, if you will.
And I'm curious to hear more about some of their reasons for shying away from using AI. We talk a lot about why students are using it, but some definitely are not. You mentioned environmental concerns. I imagine that might be a reason that lots of students at your college at Middlebury feel very hesitant about it.
That's one, but I think one that trumps the environmental concern is a kind of misguided acceptance of the narrative of creativity. What is creativity? And so we spent the first week actually unpacking what is creativity and how does the imagination work. And they were really not conscious of the fact that we walk through life on a daily basis, minute by minute, doing creative things or thinking creative things. So moving us into what is creativity for you and how do you think about it kind of settled them down into this idea of, I really am creative. And just the fact that this morning I got up and I want to look like this and I want to wear that, that's creativity too. So really digging down into what that means became a really important aspect of our conversation.
Hector, I know you work closely with peer writing tutors at Middlebury, so students helping other students with their writing. And when you and I first talked, you said that one of the first uses of AI that you really noticed catching on campus was students who were approaching English as a second language and using generative AI to help with their writing. And now tutors are also using it as well.
Sure. I mean, I don't know if our peer writing tutors on campus are using AI to help them teach. In my class, the students will certainly be using, I use a tool called Notebook LM for this. They will definitely be using Notebook LM to help them in their peer, the AI will be the peer writing tutor. It prompts questions rather than solutions. But what I'm also doing is having my students go through this process, but also visit with physical peer writing tutors to understand the relationships between the machine themselves, their process, and then what happens when they visit with a person. What's the difference and what changed and which one do you like or what are you more comfortable with? So to be able to make choices that are very, very critical to creative work.
Hector, you have a busy week this week. Not only are you teaching your classes, but also on Thursday and Friday, Middlebury's hosting a symposium that you helped put together, the Clifford Symposium, which is focused this year on moving beyond the hype and fear surrounding AI. What's one thing that you're excited about, maybe a speaker or a session at this symposium? And are there ways for the community outside of Middlebury College to get involved in these conversations?
Sure. I would say that the community outside of the college should just Google Clifford Symposium Middlebury College, and you get the whole schedule, which begins 12:30 on Thursday, and it runs through to the end of the day on Friday. We have an array of things being discussed and shown, from climate to writing and education to what alumni are telling us about AI in the world where they're now visiting. And also, how do we coexist with artificial intelligence? So all these things are going to be a part of it.
That was Middlebury College professor Hector Vila on Vermont Edition. You can listen to more of that conversation about generative AI in the classroom on Vermont Edition's podcast feed or vermontpublic.org. Thanks for listening to The Frequency today. We had additional reporting from Bob Kinzel, the New England News Collaborative, and Adia Golston, who also produced today's episode, with Stephanie Colombini editing. And our music is by Blue Dot Sessions. I'm Mary Angish. I'll talk to you soon.